is true.
So, but it was too, I just couldn't handle it. And I had cats and horses and nuts, but I can't, it would get old.
The attorney we dealt with down on 393 South. I don't think she mentioned whether she did or not. I mean, she said she shaved her hair. She just couldn't handle it falling out. She just saw. She just couldn't handle it, so she cut it. I don't think she just said one way or another whether she wanted to leave or she wanted to. She just stopped cutting.
Who was that?
I can't remember her name. She did some estate planning.
Oh, yeah, Jane Carey.
Or the horse farm. Yeah, I couldn't remember her name. Because her hair at that time was about
Her hair was long.
Your hair is now.
Yeah.
Because this was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe longer than that. But I did run into her in the hall. She said she goes to the clerk of court all the time, so I did run into her.
Before her hair was down this long.
She just said she just couldn't even see it fall out when she's in the shower. When she's in the shower, she's like,
it's messy.
she was telling me she's doing the target therapy. What my mom's doing immunotherapy. So it's different.
Yeah, Jane's young too.
So she takes hers, I think she told us every 3 weeks. Mom goes every 2 weeks.
I went every 3, and I saw Jane, I would see Jane occasionally.
I was telling
If I can have everyone's attention, this is the July 94 meeting, however, we do not have a quorum at the moment. We're expecting one, so we're going to start.
It's for 100.
It is. It's even in a hospital.
He says it goes
Did you know that?
Friday to Wednesday.
Yeah, when he has chemo, he has it every 3 weeks.
He says Friday to Wednesday.
Yeah.
Friday they go to him on Wednesday.
It's crazy. He only has to have like 3 treatments, but
Well, he said he had 3 more. I don't know what the total is, but when I talked to him, he said he had 3, and he was leaving that Friday. I don't know when that was, but he was leaving that
to get
Friday.
him off it.
Yeah.
This is hard.
He goes to Tampa.
That's rough. How many more does he have?
He said he had 3, I think 2 now. 2 more.
It's brutal.
He goes to the same place my mom goes, 21st Century.
Yeah.
He's going to Moffitt for chemo, but he did the radiation. I mean, I've seen him there like 3 times. It's right behind, it's catty corner from Starbucks.
How many more do we
Here,
need to get up
and
there?
behind us, the 4-story doctors.
Is it 2
and
more?
one of them has to
Right
be at the
behind
same
the
position.
little shopping center that's
Well, we
got,
both are done, but that's what I thought. Who else do we have besides David Arnottis? We've got Brad C. Baker.
I know, I can see the other.
Panera.
Oh, Tom.
Panera, so that little shopping
So
center
David
right
or
there.
Lourdes are both designing.
I think
But
we
it's
have
just
to have fun.
over the hill there from Starbucks.
How many do we need for a quorum?
Lourdes
Is she
and
coming?
David, you have to
We have to have 4 or 5.
And 4 makes a quorum?
3. 4 plus.
So it's gotta be her, because
Well,
David's
not
not gonna
plus.
be here. We're not one of them that's on the other. I know, but, yeah.
We had 4.
Have you tried to contact him?
Yeah.
And that's one reason we made David, because David was here, but he wasn't in that seat. So
Right.
We didn't have a quorum.
That was crazy. Huh? Yeah,
I am
you're
not
vice.
vice chair.
Who's vice chair?
Tom.
Tom?
Oh, that's right.
You obviously have very good hearing, because I can barely hear it. It's right here in front of me.
Eat.
right?
That's you.
Shocked.
Because we had a
But it's
really
not
long
that
agenda
loud, that's just
before.
you.
We have a long agenda.
It is not.
It's weird, wasn't
You
it?
can hear it.
I was like, really? Not even one or two? It's weird. I thought the same thing.
How loud?
I didn't notice it too. Oh, you did it last time? It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I do it every time. I'm very big on consistency. I do it every time. So who are we expecting? Words?
We have to have.
Is Tom not coming?
Well, I think she said that he wouldn't.
Yeah, I know. I'm just wondering if
But
it.
it's Tom, because he's the vice chair.
Yeah.
A lot of it is the farmer's market, probably.
Being on the front row. I was real surprised they didn't do that. Yeah, there are a couple of typos. But, well, there are a couple of things that I thought were odd. I thought so. Yeah, we had one of our pigs like just and they marketed it. It's cool. The Georgia Center. Four, yeah, and Tom never responded.
Oh,
She was 18.
oh wow. How old do pigs are with
Well, the oldest was 19. So
She would get
15 is pretty good. And we have another one that's
Can't be an county employee.
so we had to move right away.
Scott
We went
Rosen
over and buried
resigned from the CBA. He's the new county
most of our
senator.
bells.
Actually, for a long.
Did you have a question about the
Yeah, that's a big hole. Yeah, so y'all have a house in Pittsburgh.
You too.
How much time are you going?
Scott on the ZBA for a long time, like 20 years. Because Joe's been.
Everybody got
what?
and
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, totally. And I went back there today to find
So
home.
that's
How many kids do you have?
13 years.
The same one.
But Joe's been on there, what, like 33 years? Like,
What I'm going to do first,
Okay.
When all of us came to live at the house, Mona.
my intention was to include
Cecilia said something about 33 years.
Oh my
So we'll
God.
just take care of that.
No.
This is that.
This is actually from Sunday.
Yeah, that addresses the issue
And
of
it was
10%.
Well, not the 10%.
It just
I got a good pig farm story.
It moves all of those things up here, where I think where you have and approved plant-based or food-based products items would go up here.
okay.
That's in Santa Rosa
Right behind the
County.
plant. And that's where we want to, up to 10% non-food products, that's where we want clarification what can be allowed. That's
There's
really
this,
where we want
big
to go
house,
with that.
the lady died, and someone bought it, and they wanted to convert it to commercial.
Something
It's right
like
across, there's a, right,
Something along those lines.
right here,
There's
here's the
any way
house.
to
There's a road that goes
expand
back
that
here
or
to a small
phrase that or
subdivision,
understand
homes or
that.
something. But
But I
over
was gonna
here,
say
this is
that-
all commercial, across the street, there's a gas station with a restaurant in it.
I'm fine with
So
that.
basically,
They have the same
everything
comments, so we're just gonna get
east
that,
is
this
commercial.
part taken care of.
Behind
You
it
know
is
what we do
residential,
that
to the west is
for us
pretty
is we
much
say-
vacant.
Say
So they came in
products.
to change it from, it was
So
ag,
that like
and
the
then
soaps and things are plant-based.
So they asked to
and that's how
rezone
we're
it.
able to-
Zone it.
Oh, they approved that. So the soap are.
to commercial. Well, these people in the back objected, so they denied. So the people's like, you know what? Fine. We got ag zoning, they put in pigs. And they complained, these people complained to everyone. The health department, code enforcement, everyone. But everyone said, hey, it's ag zoning.
You have to be careful when you complain about
Revenge.
something because you don't, you know, you gotta make sure what they can actually put there right then.
So,
And that it's not worse.
you know how bad it can get in the summer, right? When it's hot.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
finally, these people went to the owner and said, no mas. If you want to rezone to commercial, we'll support you as long as you get rid of the pig. So he reapplied. They did not object. He got approved, and he removed the pig. So he bad is commercial zoning.
Okay,
People
so
get rid of it.
That's
one
hilarious.
is let the board know
Now-
what a suggestion for what those other like 10% things. And I mean, we're not strict on the 10%.
And I don't know what happened with,
Full board or whatever they want to say 15% or they want to say 0%. That's up to them what they want to recommend.
But it
But
did
just
when you
what
first
those
submitted
types
it.
of products
When you first
are the
sent it
best
to me to review it,
way
it
to
was
define
fine.
them.
But when he turned it in and paid the fee and everything, and I sat down and did the staff report,
Is it all that changeable parking
Yeah.
space?
well, he reduced the size of the sign without reducing the content. The sign was
So
bigger.
that's why they haven't asked for a deviation, because they didn't realize it was gonna
I guess not. I emailed him the staff report thinking he would change it or call
Yeah,
me or
let's get
something.
definitely move all of that.
Because I looked at
Request to move all
what he
of
sent
those
me,
products
and
up.
it was bigger. So it was in, when he reduced it, now the copier exceeds the 35%. And I don't see him here either. Johnny Himes.
We want to do,
There's somebody here.
hopefully we'll get a quorum here. But just have a couple of good suggestions on how I think we use this, this suggestion and we put it right up here. And then we just change it up to 10%
When I
of
emailed him the staff report, I thought he was calling me.
Yeah.
Such items such as. and
They
then
probably don't
whatever
understand the
verbiage you wanna
deal.
put in there to.
They probably don't understand.
To replace,
Would be my guess.
you're right. Yeah, so
Oh, you sent it to
you have a
John?
suggestion for
Well,
them
that's
before they get your.
Or that's who you sent
the
it
only
to?
email I
Right, okay. So let me go.
Okay.
Take order here. So I had a question about this.
Gotcha.
That I just realized, like, noticed, like,
I had Pottery Barn come in on, I think
that just
Thursday,
means like
turn it in, saying, we gotta have this
But
open
I'm
next
holding
week.
permits for other events.
You can have other events happening at the same time.
Your emergency is not mine.
Right.
But I signed it right away and sent it over to the building department. It took a while for them to, but they were calling like every day because they were saying,
Yeah.
we're with the Howard Group. Were they telling the truth? They told us that the Howard Group won't turn the building over to us until we go get the sign. That's what they were telling us.
I don't know. I don't get involved in the development stuff.
That's what they were telling us. They were calling every single day. It was in the building department. I'd already
Why are
signed
they
it.
submitting it to you? It doesn't fit in the master signage plan?
The other two are not gonna be here, the two guys will be here.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Sign it.
Right.
Planning a sign,
And
and
there's a
then
lot
it
of
goes over the building, and they say whether it needs a permit. It's almost always no, it doesn't need a permit. But they were calling us saying, well, they won't give us, turn the building over to us until we get a
That may be the truth. I don't know. I don't know. Who knows?
But I mean, they turn this stuff in at the last minute and they expect us to turn it around immediately.
I know.
It's like, you ever tried to?
They don't.
turn a cruise ship?
Yeah, that's not how it works.
It's gonna be a very big arc.
Yeah. It's nice of you. No, you don't.
A tenant to come out and set up if they've got some big promotion going on, or they've got some
Alright.
interaction going on, or maybe it's a new farmer's barn, they want to fund the farmer's market and give everybody a
We didn't get t-shirts. So one of those days, we had a really quick this morning, I'm really good.
want to manage that. I think would like the opportunity to make something out there if we want to. That's our business, that's our tenant, and
I know.
That's
Just because of the first thing.
I think that's,
Yeah, and
well,
I got some of these deviations. I'm like, wait, what?
put something together. And I appreciate it. Yeah, you gotta start somewhere.
I agree with that too. It's probably like issue.
Yeah.
Something didn't get.
But those folks can go.
Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, I didn't look at the minutes. Dang it.
Yeah. So, since since our chair and vice chair aren't here tonight, we need a volunteer or a nomination for someone to chair. Or Colleen, are you our vice chair?
I am not.
Okay, no, it must be Tom.
Everybody
So,
thinks
yeah,
you are.
I'm going to need
I promise I'm not.
we need a volunteer to chair or a nomination. Someone.
I nominate Colleen.
Second. That's all you, Colleen.
Yep, that's all we need.
All right, then we'll get the meeting started. And we have the minutes from the May 4th meeting, since we did not have a meeting last month. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, any comments? Oh, okay,
Second.
all right. Vote.
Aye, in favor.
All right, minutes are approved. All right, Mac, do we have any announcements?
We have no announcements tonight, other than thank y'all very much for volunteering your time and coming to be with us tonight. Our first item, we have a legislative item that we'd like for you to consider, the proposed farmers market ordinance. Vivian has been working very hard on that, and I'll let her introduce this for us.
Good afternoon, early evening. Farmers markets have become increasingly popular across the entire country, and we have actually had quite a few in Walton County, South Walton, basically. And it came to us that it's a good idea to have some sort of regulation over them so that they don't turn into something beyond what their intention is. And so we've developed an ordinance for mostly the scenic corridors. It's site specific to commercial centers on Scenic 30A and Highway 98. There were some prohibitions in Highway 98 scenic corridor guidelines that would have disallowed basically a lot of the farmers markets due to tents and other regulations. So this is going to provide a venue for them to be an allowed event permit on Scenic 98, and then also providing for some basic regulations for 30A. Now, I have had some comments. We've worked with the manager of some of the farmers markets and with some of the venues that have the farmers markets, and I do have a couple people here today as well who provided comments, and talked to Seaside event coordinators. They are actually happy to have some guidelines. They think it'll be a good thing for 30A. So we can get started here. I have just a couple of comments that right off the bat, I have something that I would recommend changing that I wrote in the very first paragraph, if you want to take a look at that. It's under J, farmers markets as temporary uses, and this would fall under J and also the letter P, which is the Scenic 98. The verbiage is the same, but basically halfway down the first paragraph, we have it says up to 10% of non-food products for sale are allowed if they are produced by the vendor, to include items such as milled products, honey, maple syrup, jams, jellies, cider, and soaps. Actually, that really all belongs up in the first sentence. They're all grouped. They're all food-based products. So that all of those items really we just need to move that line up to excuse me, the first sentence as allowed uses in the farmers market. So that is something that we just a simple change that we want to make that makes sense to everybody. That would leave then what we have as 10% of other products to be allowed to be used as as the booths in the farmers markets. That's where I believe we have a couple of comments from people that I've been working with, and we could just look for a verbiage that we could use in that 10% of additional non-food type items that would make sense.
So soaps would be allowed
Yeah, that's
in the long list. And then instead of it being non-food products, it would be things that are not in that list.
right. And that's where we were having the conversations just a minute ago, that I believe that the soaps would be allowed in that first group as, you can help me out. Food-based, yes. So if there's a desire to have other types of products available other than non-food products at the farmers markets, that's where recommendations from the board would be, we'd be happy to accept those recommendations, as if you want anything other than food-based products at the farmers markets, and how much should that content be. I did look at many ordinances across the country, and it's very broad. Some allow up to 50% of non-food-based products to be at the farmers markets. Some don't allow any. So it's a variable that we're willing to look at.
Was it your thought that 10% would be appropriate?
It's kind of what I came up with, just because it seemed like we didn't want it to turn into more of a flea market type attraction, but keep it basically what it really is, a farmer's market. But it's an arbitrary number that I came up with, so of course, willing to hear anybody else's opinions.
And you figure out the 10% based on the number of vendors?
Yes.
Okay.
Total
Yeah.
number.
So I'd be happy to answer any questions, and then we'd be happy to hear from any other suggestions that we have from our guests in the audience here.
Just from an interpretation standpoint, I would suggest defining how the 10% is calculated, instead of it being 10% of the items that are for sale or
Okay.
things like that.
Okay, 10% of the vendors then.
Of vendor,
Yeah, okay.
vendor booths or whatever.
Percentage of vendors, okay.
So you're looking for questions from us now? Is that all you had
Yeah,
to
that's
clarify?
that's what I have.
Is that what you have on the whole thing?
Well, that was just one
That
change that
section.
I wanted to make up front, so that we could, go ahead and look at the rest of the ordinance if there are any other additional questions. But that one was something that talking to the citizens and so forth, it all made sense that that really needed to be changed.
There's just one typo. It appears twice in D1 and in H2, and it's the word "your" should be the word "our."
Oh, they caught that.
Yeah.
They caught that too. They did.
And then I had a question about in D, where it talks about they may operate 1 day per week. Why the limit of 1 day per week?
That was something it was a common theme throughout all of the ordinances that I looked at, and it was also common when I spoke with Diane, who manages the groups, that basically they at 1 day per location is about what they is pretty much max that they want to do. So unless.
And then in E, it talks about 1 temporary sign shall be allowed. What if there is a non-temporary sign? Are those permitted if it's a farmer's market that's there on a regular basis, and they actually, the shopping center or whatever wants to put up a sign that's a more permanent sign? Is that permitted?
I think we could look at that. Get with Tim and look and see if there's something that we could do to allow for maybe a location for a permanent sign saying, you know, hours or days of the week or whatever. That's certainly something we could look at doing for the board's suggestion.
Those were all my questions.
The 10% sounds reasonable to me. I understand that you don't want to make it to where it's like you said, like a flea market where you have a bunch of artists and everything there. That's a whole separate ballgame. So I would think the 10% would be perfectly acceptable.
How do you manage the 10% though? I mean,
Based on the vendors.
Number of vendors.
Yeah,
On the
but
number of
you
vendors.
know, in terms of how do you cap it in 10% of the vendors?
I think that would be the manager of the market's responsibility.
So it would be by you know, whoever applies first and on a timely, you know, it's time manner.
That would be the vendor managers or the farmers market managers, which that is their actual job when they work with these farmers markets, and that would be up to them to make sure they're
Yeah, I was just
correct.
wondering, you know, I
Yeah.
don't know about that.
And then it would be, I think, a code enforcement issue if
Should
a
somebody
market starts to
complain.
look,
Mhm.
yeah. Quick general question. The written in comments that we got in our packet, where were those from?
Those were from Grand Boulevard and from Diane, who is one of the farmers market managers, who is
Okay.
looking at doing one in Seascape, and they're also starting one at 30 Avenue. So
Okay. So 10%, so we're looking at 10% non-food based items, basically. What, if we go with what's here, making that change that you suggested already. So let's say you have a market that's 30 vendors. So of the 30, 3 can be, in that scenario, 3 could be non-food based items. Is that what I just want to make sure we're,
yeah, that's where we
Clear.
are right now, but you know, we're welcome to suggestions
Are
on
we
that.
categorizing the non-food items? It can be like, you know, furniture, or it can be any size? I mean, that's my. 'Cause
No, I think
Yeah, I
that's
hope
where we would like to substitute some other type of language. Did you have any suggestions?
When you have college food law, and that helps to define what the food categories can be. And then the non-food items, I mean, soap would count in that. And that would not count as a food item.
We allow it because we do food-based
Yeah,
soaps.
no, I'm just saying from a college
Right.
food law standpoint,
Right.
soap is, you're not eating soap, so they're not. But you're putting yourself in a position of splitting hairs between something that's locally produced, sourcing local ingredients that are being repurposed to something else. And furniture is different, but I mean, that's gonna be a very specific language to be able to say what's non-food and what's food, especially if you're not gonna go off an existing law like the college food law.
So we don't do arts and crafts, so all we know at our markets that in, so, the only thing outside of the food spectrum, which I think Seaside is the same, would be the bath and body products. So I don't have anybody there with furniture, I don't have people there with wooden bowls and salad tongs that are hand carved, so we don't have that. So basically, you know, Kevin probably is in agreement with me on this, we don't have the flea market atmosphere whatsoever.
And we don't, as a host venue, we don't want
They don't
that,
want
that's
it.
why I approve every single vendor that comes on board. But let me give you an example of a non-food item at the farmer's market that we would like the option to be able to have. Occasionally, we'll allow one of our tenants to come out and set up, if they make a special request and say, Stacy, we're Grand Fitness and we are giving away t-shirts and we're excited and we're gonna have some people down in the park, can we set up a tent? So that doesn't happen often, but it does happen, and we would like to have the option of being able to say, of course you can come down, it's fun and, you know, and do that. But it's incumbent upon us to basically police and make sure that we've got the right mix there. And we've definitely
how about this? We'll just substitute, this was something that you had put in, it's on one of the suggestion pages, and 10% vendors of, 10% of non-food products for sale by vendors approved by the host property. That way, they would be responsible for making the decisions of what those
And that way you
products could
also,
be.
that also helps avoid if you're in a large center, like a 30 Avenue or a Grand Boulevard, you don't have all of a sudden 15 or 20 stores mixing in with the farmer's market, and then it becomes less and less of a farmer's market, you know? If that is included in the limitation of 10%,
10%, yeah.
then I
And
think
there's a way
that's,
to manage that.
But what's the problem is though, is that when does the event permit on private property then diagram into the farmer's market permit? Because if I'm having an event like the Sing Red Wine Festival, where we do include the farmer's market, and then I have activations from vendors and sponsors from around the country, and it's happening at the same time in the same space, they should be able to coexist, because I sought a permit for both of those, but they're gonna be operating under the same.
Well, would it be operating under the farmer's market permit, or,
How would code enforcement tell the difference between if I have my farmer's market going and then they see Porsche and 5 other sponsors that are there?
would that be under your other event, though? That's under
So then somebody's
your,
just gonna pull a permit for an arts festival and go with their farmer's market, that's my point.
not every week, I wouldn't think. I mean, how,
the farmer's market, you would be able to have a, like, calendar of events type thing where you $100 permit fee for all of your farmers markets. If you're having another event, that would fall under your other events.
I would,
I understand.
Even though visually it might note to the casual observer, you won't be able to tell difference, and it could just look like all that is in the farmer's market.
Right, I'm saying the loophole would be, if I wanted arts and crafts at my farmer's market, then I would take out an event permit for an arts and crafts event to happen at the same exact time as my farmer's market, which is exactly what I would do if I wanted a
So-
face painting.
and that's a really good example of why you have to have strict codes, because people will find ways
But
to.
why would you limit that, though? Why would you not allow me to have music or Abracadoodle to do face painting at my event?
Or are you gonna be
Why you would regulate that?
well, my question is, are you gonna be commingling, or is it gonna be separate, you know, the vendors wouldn't be mixed in all into the farmer's market, they would be separate in separate areas, even though it's in the same, you know, it's like Seaside, you would divide it into the farmer's market on one side and the other venue on the other, and it's all in the same place.
But why, from a marketing standpoint, when I want to separate crowds, why wouldn't I would put them in the same exact spot? I have live music, and then from time to time, we have arts and crafts activities for children and families who frequent Seaside. I'm not going to create a 50-foot buffer between my events so that code enforcement doesn't come and say that that's not farmer's market, but hey, they're 50 feet away.
Well, nobody's saying any buffer. I mean, I didn't mention
No.
any buffer. I just mentioned the fact that it could be, it's just not in the same exact space. Like you have one vendor that is farmer's market, and the next vendor is from something else, from your other event. So that's commingling everything.
Yeah,
I'm talking about just a little bit of separation.
How much is it to get an events permit?
$100.
And so, and that's, but every week you would have to get that. It's not a permit that goes for the
Then we
entire
get a
year.
series. We get a, like,
You
if
get a
we do our
series.
movie night, and we pay
$100 for that,
our
okay.
series, that's correct.
I mean, I would think as long, they could be right next to each other, right abutting each other.
Yeah.
That would not be an issue, because, you know, you have a large area, and so you can hold separate events at the same time.
It's like on Seaside, you have your theater events in the stage, and you have the farmers market right above on the street level, and they're, you know, going at the same time. I mean, that's fine with me. You know, I'm not saying put them in a different area, but I'm just saying that you can't. The idea of having a vegetable market with something right next to it that is something that it's not compatible, that it might be from another event, might be commingling too much, and then everything gets blurred.
Well,
How do
it
you
becomes,
regulate it?
Commingling too much, I don't understand what that means. if I'm gonna have music at my farmer's market, but in this ordinance it says that I'm not allowed to have additional activities during my farmer's market, when is commingling too much when I have Kyle and Monica playing music?
Well, I don't have a problem with any music. I mean, music is not
Okay,
commingling.
but it does say no additional activities are permitted under the temporary use permit, that's just such a.
Yeah,
blanket
you
statement
would-
that needs to-
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't consider music, but then I'm sure that, you know, you don't want somebody else interpret it the wrong way, and you could interpret it in like saying music is a different venue and you can't do
You
it.
asked me to get a permit to sneeze because it was for the public safety, I'd do it. I mean, Seaside follows the rules and regulations. The problem is that the event permit that we follow is 4.5 pages long with very strict guidelines, with statutes, ordinances. This is vague. I mean, I just think that this is something that should be brought in front of the principals of the farmers markets and event producers in this area to workshop out these details so that we don't run into what happened with the event ordinance that was proposed, where all of a sudden the enforcement was a misdemeanor against the event producer. And that's how far that ordinance went. If it seems like we're trying to split hairs, it's because we don't want to go down that rabbit hole again, where all of a sudden we're being threatened with, this arbitrary regulation and enforcement that, what does commingling mean for an event? What does it mean that non-food vendors come down, or 200-mile radius for counties? If I bring in a farmer from North Carolina or I get peaches from Georgia, I'm going to put them in my farmer's market. I'm not, but under this ordinance, I'd be violating the ordinance. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, yeah, I did ask for comments.
No, I understand that, but it's not something where, I didn't realize that this is going to be we're going to be in a position where we're going to adopt this ordinance and escalate this to the BCC to vote on.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, it would be the recommendations.
I know that's what I'm saying, that's why I'm being very
Yeah.
adamant about.
Well,
We're happy that this is just a basic, draft that I put together from looking at various ordinances, and it's not saying that this is all it's done. We're very happy to take suggestions.
No, I
So-
appreciate the feedback. I'm just saying that this is far more along than what was made aware to us, that this is going to be, if you vote and adopt this, then it goes to the BCC, correct?
They're not,
Goes to
they're
planning
making
commission.
recommendations.
yeah,
Oh, the planning
And it goes to the BCC twice.
yeah, so there's 4 opportunities for public input. I mean,
And if you're not happy with it, or if we can vote and say it has to go back to, to be relooked at. If, there's a lot of, issues that haven't been resolved in this ordinance.
well, I mean, are we hearing a request for some public workshops to workshop this thing out with the public? And are you okay with that taking a significant amount of time, adding to the process to get to a final ordinance?
Yeah, I think if you did one, if you did one with one public workshop, I think that would be helpful, and then,
Just hammer out the issues here, because we've got a good base
yeah,
here.
Vivian's been very gracious to be able to reach out to us. I'm not taking away from that. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure that this has become a very vague, basic ordinance, and I get that it's in the early stage, but I just don't want to go down the rabbit hole where all of a sudden we're going to get charged with a misdemeanor if I have music.
So Stafford, how do you all feel about that?
Well, first of all, if I could address that, this ordinance will become part of the land development code. It will be enforced against anybody in this room unless you own the property where the event is taking place. That's the way code enforcement works. By state law and by our county ordinances that are couched in state law, any code enforcement action is taken against the owner of the property where the violation occurs, not the violator. So if it's a tenant, it
So-
Like I said, we're very happy to work with
Yeah,
your
of course.
suggestions,
Yeah,
so.
absolutely.
So again, staff, how do you all feel about scheduling a more of a workshop format around the table, hammering out details versus a board and approval situation? And, I mean, I'm asking.
I mean, I'm happy to go with whichever direction is gonna work best for,
Oh, I think that we
Everybody.
should go with the workshop.
I agree.
Because there's too many, you know, I mean, I just said commingling because I figured that was part of what, what you were trying to order or codify, and I don't know.
Well,
mean,
I
don't know how-
think you're hitting on something, though, that is accurate in that this is just my perception and my interpretation, is that we don't want these markets to take on a carnival-esque or fair type of atmosphere. We have seen that happen in places near here and seen the detrimental effect it has on the community and the businesses around it. And so I think that's the whole point of the regulations. And so, to just let it get willy-nilly,
Right.
you don't want it to, because then it becomes something
But
totally
also,
different.
I mean, I'm speaking out of term because I'm not the one that is very familiar as to how these events now. Now, I've enjoyed a lot of events and I've been in Seaside, so I like the fact that everything is in the same place. But I think this needs to be studied further so that, we're not regulating something, and it's not really thought out.
yeah, I think that would be fine. It was really crazy looking at a lot of the ordinances that I did research, and some of them are like 5 pages long of just, I mean, some places have just really gotten to where they extremely regulate them, and so we want to get something on the books that is going to work for the commercial centers that want to have these farmers markets, but keep it somehow just some kind of regulations to keep them streamlined,
Right,
but
but-
not over-regulate.
Sometimes what happens is that if you leave it open-ended, then, there's a lot of things that go array that you haven't thought about. And I'm sorry if I said that it wasn't well thought out, but it needs, from my point,
Oh, no, I
it
didn't
just
take it
seems
like
to me
that.
like it needs more work, and if it needs to have 5 pages to make it work, it needs to be longer.
Yeah.
If not, there's just so many things that fall into the cracks that
Oh,
we don't
yeah.
want to happen.
No, I just meant that the 5 pages was extreme over-regulation. It ran the gamut from very simple, a couple, 2 paragraphs to, many pages. And, what we always like to do is not try to over-regulate, but we want to provide organization and something that's going to work for everybody.
Right, and I think that
Vendors and everybody.
there's a lot of, even though it might seem over-regulating, but there's some truth to that, because, Seaside, you said it was 4 pages long. There's the experience of going through all these things that teaches you might as well mention this and that, and you don't want to tie it too much, but you also don't want to let things fall
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
And to be clear, the fact that you want to do this and how gracious Vivian's been to reach out to us, we're 100% on board. We just, from our perspective, think you should reverse engineer this based on what's going well with markets that are operating responsibly in commercial developments that are in good standing. And I think that would be the best way to do it. And we're very much willing to work with you to write that.
I agree, because I think they're perfect the way we have them.
Well, I just want to say something. It's great when the developments and the developers are really good and they care about it and they do it tastefully. But
You
what
can't-
happens when you have a
yeah.
developer that has no taste or that
Yeah.
doesn't care as much. So you don't want to give him all the freedom either. So
That's the only reason you need the rules,
right.
really.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, or else we wouldn't have any.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I would just encourage the public to keep that in mind, to know and understand that. So what do you need from us if we're going to go to a?
Well, do we want to do
A
a
different
public
route.
workshop with this group at the design review board, or do we want to do
Or would you
one
guys prefer
separate
just a
prior
staff
to
workshop?
coming back to
Public.
the design review board? What?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was just saying, or would they prefer a staff workshop with the public?
I think a staff
probably
workshop
the
with
most-
the public would be better.
I'm good,
Okay.
especially if you guys will encourage your other counterparts out there, so Vivian's not sitting there with you 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Not that y'all aren't great, but be great to. I know, but it'd be great to have more people. That's
Okay,
Yeah, 'cause
we'll be
that
happy
way
to
it'll-
set
it'll
that up,
pass
and
a lot
then,
easier.
Do you need a
I
motion
was
from
gonna
us?
say, do you need a motion?
I mean, hopefully what we'll be able to do is get one going, so that it could get back to you for the next DRB.
Great. Thank you, Vivian.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're at number 2 on the agenda.
No motion.
No, there's no motion. So, I mean, they're gonna have the staff.
Did we have any kind of vote on this particular item? We need some kind
did
of
not.
formal
Oh,
action,
okay,
direction
I'm
to
sorry.
workshop.
I'm sorry,
She
that's
told
my
us all
something.
didn't.
Do we wanna,
But if, I'll make a
Is this-
motion.
Excuse me, can I have everyone's attention? I mean, we're still conducting the meeting here.
sorry, Mac, don't we have to ask the BCC for permission to hold the workshop?
You're not, probably not if it's staff.
Do you need a motion from us to request that?
Yeah, we could have a staff workshop.
Okay.
We need a motion to dispense with
request
this
it.
item on the agenda today.
Oh, I
Okay.
guess a motion to continue to
Um,
the,
Continue to next month?
So moved.
Yeah. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And we'll work on the workshop part of it with the public in the meantime, before next meeting.
Thank you,
Okay,
Matt.
great.
But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Good evening, Tim Brown with Planning and Development. CEFCO, this is a major development or application submitted by Jenkins Engineering requesting approval to construct a 5,500 square foot convenience store / gas station on 2.32 acres, which is future land use of VMU. It's located at the northwest corner of County Road 393 North and US Highway 98. There was only one outstanding issue with it. They did not indicate whether their HVAC or other extraneous equipment was going to be screened from the road. They have since added a note to the site plan to that effect that it's going to be screened by the parapet roof. But sans that, the rest of the project is in compliance with the scenic corridor requirements. I'll entertain any questions the board may have.
What is the orientation? Is the front elevation facing 393? Is that how it's working?
98.
98. So you just get oriented with these. So the side facing 393 is the side elevation that also has the sign. Okay. Is that green color an approved color, Tim?
Yes.
That's unfortunate.
One of the new approved colors.
Accent color.
My turn?
Yes.
Oh, Scott Jenkins with Jenkins Engineering. Thank you for letting us come tonight. As Tim said, this is the CEFCO project at the corner of 393 and 98. The green color is an approved color. It is a little more muted than what shows up in the printouts, though. I can tell you it's not quite as green, but it's hard to get these printouts to show correctly.
Do you have
Yeah.
a chip?
Yeah, that would be great.
The project in general is basically 2 acres. You can see here the store is oriented in the rear, the canopy and the gas pumps are in the front. This is an 8-path parking and access from the north here. There's also access from 98. It's a pretty straightforward layout that you would see in most places. The landscaping plan obviously meets all the requirements of city corridor, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys may have for the applicant.
Did you have a color chip from the?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good.
Yay. We love that. Oh, that's so tiny. What is that hedgerow?
I unfortunately do not have a good one for the green, but for the sample.
That's the one we want. Yeah, these are Naples.
So there's one entrance from 393 and then the one from 98.
Yes, ma'am. Well, there's actually two entrances from 393. There's a main entrance that is a shared access point from two adjacent properties, and there's one just for the service station itself.
Yeah, I should mention, this was part of an approved PUD. That PUD has since expired, but that will be a main entrance to the remainder of the property off of 393. So this is going to serve the larger parcels back here. And then they've got entrance off of Highway 98 as well. This one isn't quite, but it's closely aligned with the gas station across the street. Is that a
Chevron or Exxon or something or other.
Scott did his best to line it up, but because of the utilities and everything there, he couldn't quite line it all the way. But this is part of a larger piece of property and a larger project. The actual PUD has expired.
So there are 3 total entrances.
Correct. Two for the site, one that's a primary access for the entire property, which is about 17 acres. And the access to the site off of that point is actually here, off the main access.
Which one of these are you planning on using?
The grayer color is on the canopy, and the lighter color is on the building.
And is that a red brick accent?
The grayer color, and what about the metal here? This is the windows?
That's just trim. Yes, ma'am. The windows are just standard.
What color? So it's these 2 colors that you're using,
Yes, ma'am.
and the green.
Not that
And-
one.
So this one
And
has
the
not
brick.
been used at all? The one that's in the, this has not been used?
No, ma'am. That was just another.
And what is this one for?
That's for
That's the
trim.
silvery.
This was just for flashing.
So then you got the green, and is that a red brick, just like a normal, regular old red brick?
Yes.
And that's aluminum. Is this?
Brick.
So
Columns.
where are the two of these going?
The big
These
large,
two. They're the panels, but the panel is one color. They're not 2 different colors.
Yes,
are
ma'am.
they?
Some of the area around the top.
The top
of
is this,
correct, just the
flashing.
portion,
right?
The flashing portion here. And the remainder is the darker gray colors around the canopy, the building front. It's the lighter.
So you're putting the gray, this gray in the back, and this in the front.
Yes, ma'am.
Why change the color?
Couldn't answer that. I don't know.
Oh, this is from the owner, you're
Yes,
the
ma'am, this is
engineer.
from here.
Okay.
too many colors.
It is. It's the same problem
I don't understand the back at all.
because you got to add 2 more colors to
Yeah,
that.
and then you have the, and then you have the, and then you have the green
And the red brick.
Red.
and the red brick. I take this one out.
Yeah, we have an owner.
This is just gonna be flashing.
Yes,
at the
ma'am.
top, so this is minimal. This
Yep.
is-
Yeah, that's,
I would think that since the flashing should match the aluminum color, windows.
You're the designer.
Yeah. We do have an owner's rep here that I'm sure that if you guys have some specific requests, they'd be happy to entertain.
Well,
them.
I think we need we really need the green
To see.
to see it. I mean, there, you know, that's a significant amount of green.
I think so too.
And, you know, and it's just, it's a paint chip.
Hey,
Right.
Tim,
I mean, how hard is it to get a paint chip?
can you get us the Munsell book?
Sure.
Oh.
That's what I was gonna ask for.
Oh, sorry.
Hey there, my name's Denise Anderson.
Hi.
Hi.
Custode LLC, and we're the owner's agent for Fikes Wholesale Sefco. And honestly, looking at what I have, and comparing it to this rendering, which I think my rendering versus this printout, is much truer to the Munsell color schemes.
Hmm. Yeah, it's more muted than
And we're
the rest.
matching the exact Munsell colors that are in the book. And then when you
Careful.
refer to the red brick, it's actually
Oh,
an
that's
old
different.
brick, it's a used brick,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not like a deep red.
Yeah, it's not red.
It's more of a brownish red,
Okay.
and the
I like
color
that better.
combination is actually very attractive.
I
And
like
then
that
it
better.
even has a little bit of the splatter on the brick.
This looks a lot better than the
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
because
this
ours
helps.
is even
The thing
more
about it-
stark
I
than
didn't
that.
want us to get off on the wrong track, because it's really a very nice combination.
So which one is it? This is the whole thing. It's like a mix.
Yes.
And the thing about the Munster colors is just, it's the combination of the colors. I mean, just because they're Munster colors doesn't mean
No,
that
no,
they're gonna
we
be
actually
great colors,
chose-
you
no,
know?
we
That's way
chose
better.
the-
Right.
the two that were blank.
Right, and that's why we're asking, you know?
Yes.
Oops. It came off. Oh, I think I have it.
I mean, it's much, yes.
Thank you.
Oh, wait. Do they need to see it?
That looks much better than the drawing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And our drawing is even more stark looking than that. It's like that's the problem.
I don't understand the gray.
I don't understand the gray. either.
I like the gray.
I wonder if they consider changing the gray.
Yeah, it seems like it should be all the same color.
Is that actually? Why would
Is
you
it part of the canopy?
No, it's on the back of the building.
Or 7.5.
That's all building.
Oh, I see, these are spout, the gutter spouts.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. 5GY. 7 or 7.
He's finding it.
The book that we had for
Oh,
Or 7.5.
Three.
From 3.
But there is no 3, it has to be 2.
that's so strange. This is gray right here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand.
Has to be that one, because there's no 7.5.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't love these ends of these.
They do.
And then the neutral.
They do.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Well, if it was kind of
wow.
here's ranch.
Oh my gosh, that's like a celadon. That's pretty, yeah, yeah.
Cream, and then that brick is not.
Yeah. Yeah, oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is,
Unless I grabbed the wrong book.
well, I had, in my selection book, when I looked and read the colors, it had a lot of range. What I had.
Well, no, but there's another book. But I thought this was out of
And
the
I
new
had more
book.
chips too. Color key.
I was asking why there's more planes in the west than the east, but I think it's because of one tree for 20, 393.
Yeah, see, that's much truer. Yeah, that's much truer.
So we've got the
green?
I mean, yes.
Yeah.
See, it's much truer.
This green is totally different than what.
We got a little months of that, so
That's
it's
much
true.
truer. Did you look at any of the other colors?
I can go get the other book.
For the stucco?
The stucco is not that brown, it's more of a cream also, like a truer
It
kind of
is.
off
This one?
whitish cream.
Yeah, which one is the stucco? Because this looks like a little bit,
Okay, let me find it for you.
there's some other stucco colors in here that are better, in my mind.
What is it,
but-
10? 10 YR. 10 YR, value 9. Let me go find the 10. 10 YR, value 9. He don't have all the colors. Oops. I think Tim went to get another book because this
Oh.
book does not have all the colors.
But we have the green color that you have, which is
Yes. no,
That's the right one?
Yeah,
From
it's beautiful.
5.
It's really
See,
pretty.
it's not even, he didn't even have a 25. Which is very similar. So that's what we chose. I know.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
does.
it does tell us. I don't know why.
It should be basically the same, but it's actually
This is not the same
It's
color.
actually,
So that's not the
No,
green.
that's the green, this one. That's the same? That's not the same.
Yeah, I think
but that's the one they picked.
Oh, so it's not the same, it's not this color, it's not this green.
It's 5GY7.
4.7.5.
I thought it was out of the new book, but it's not, it's out of this book.
Yeah,
So that's,
because I don't have.
And what about the stucco?
The 10 YR,
It's not this one.
Tim,
10
We need to
YR.
start asking
10
for the
YR.
colors.
10 YR,
Here, Tim, let me
and
take
then
that
the
green back.
value's 9, and the chroma's 5. You don't have that here.
This one.
yeah, that's.
I mean, it's not that bad, but it's a lot more colorful.
Okay, 10
The other one was
YR.
prettier.
10 YR, 9, and 5.
0.5.
Yes.
That's the stucco color. Yeah, that's nice. That's nicer than, that's nicer
Yeah,
than
yeah,
this. You know,
So,
we need real samples, so we can judge it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, those aren't real samples, they don't.
Well, when they're not samples, you know, they have to match, that's one of the samples.
Yeah, because you can't, I mean, that Williams Sonoma, they don't have a, well, that one, 7, 7.5.
Yeah, well, this one right here.
Sorry, that one, that one.
Yes, right.
GY.
Like 7.5, but this one's 7.
Yeah, that'll be better.
They're used to it.
That'd be better with the lighter stucco, this one, yeah. So most of those don't, they can't get any samples.
Yeah, because I mean, you can't go to, if you go to Home Depot or Lowe's or Williams Sonoma,
Yeah.
I mean, they're not gonna know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I can tell you nobody ever knows what we're talking about when we talk about the Munsell colors, so, including me, so.
Holistic color out.
Yeah, it's the only one that's defined.
Yeah, can you show them this page and see if they get
Yeah, I mean, she said either or, 7 or 7.5.
we said 7 or.
Yeah, 7.5
They
is
only have
better.
7.5
better?
Yeah. The lighter one.
And the reality is, once we, you know, if it's the Munsell color that gets approved, and when we go out and then we're physically, they're doing their bulk match, they're forced to match that color.
Right.
And that
Right.
Munsell book and that Munsell color will be on site for the match. That will be the chip match. So,
Yeah.
It's just easier for us to see what we're doing when we've got the actual color.
And, you know, the issue is even as an example, when one architect prepares that rendering and they're looking at it on their monitor and they send it
Yep.
to me and I look at it,
It's totally different.
it can be a totally different.
No, the colors are really hard to do. That's why, we ask for samples, because,
Sorry, thank you.
even the way the light hits it changes the color.
Yep.
Pull out for those two. These-
Big time.
That green.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Really bright green.
You did what I asked.
All right.
Are there any other questions for the applicant?
I have a couple.
Okay.
You're good with the stucco color?
Well, the one that they showed me, which was a lighter color.
So let's make sure we get all that.
I mean, these basically, the color of the brick, the color of the windows, the flashing is okay. And, the stucco's a muscle color and the,
But they know
the
what,
accent is a muscle color.
but do they know the ones you're talking about?
Tim,
Yeah.
can we
Yeah,
get the exact muscle color for the stucco?
I have the exact Munsell color. I
Right, but
provided
there's
him the
two.
color.
But I mean, for us to put it in our.
But you said you wanted 7
And a half.
and a half.
For
On
the
the-
green.
on the green.
The green is 7.5, and then the
it's on their
stucco is the
plan.
corner one.
Right.
It's on their plan.
But there's two colors.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
both on here. The other one was
They didn't get that.
10 YR 9.5.
Right.
What's the other one?
5 GY 7.5.
Oh, wait,
3.
yeah, they did.
Yeah.
She liked it better in the, remember the Munsell
So-
stucco color
That's
you
the
liked
green.
better?
Right,
That's
that's
the
the one I
green.
wanted.
The first one that was 10 YR.
Is that the same one? In the Munsell color?
That's the green.
Munsell
one you
color?
were
Yes.
looking at.
Yes, ma'am.
The one you showed me?
Yes.
Okay.
10 YR 9.5.
He's not trying to trick you.
No, I know, I mean, that's
So
just,
there's a lot of letters though.
It is.
That's
I don't know the numbers.
But
It's
there's two stucco samples.
Us either. Us
just
either.
that, it's just that these samples, it's like.
Yeah, the samples, yeah.
They don't
I
have
don't
the color
disagree
at
with
all.
you on the
So-
samples.
Yeah, there was one.
Is it just gonna be the one stucco color then?
Yeah, no, that's
Type this?
So we're just,
He's saying there's one, two.
Exactly. One primary color on the building.
Even in the
So-
back,
Pardon?
even in
I
the,
know,
in
I'm
the
sorry,
back.
I'm
Even
sorry
the back.
guys, we gotta stop too.
Yeah.
Karen can't get everyone down, and everyone in the audience, if you guys could be quiet for our
Yes.
recording, thank you.
So even in the back, so the building is the brick wainscot at the bottom. And then the siding on the building is the cream color stucco. And then the trim at the top is the green. In the Munsell colors that we've given. And you guys can approve either the 7 or the 7.5. We have an issue, we don't have an issue
we
with
have
either
7.5,
one.
yeah.
Okay,
So the part that looks
7.5.
gray, is that just a shadow?
I think it's just.
It's the back.
Because it says WP1,
Right.
which is the correct color.
Right.
Okay.
Correct color.
All right.
That's the cream.
Between
So it should
residential
not
and
look
commercials, there will be 20 feet.
like this rendering. It should look
Awesome.
more like my phone.
Okay.
Commercial next to commercial is nothing.
Okay.
All right.
No.
5 GY 7.53.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
That's it.
that's the green.
Mhm.
I'm not
It's
sure
on
about
the-
any other color.
Right.
It's on the drawings.
No, I understand the logic.
No, but she had two on the drawings, right?
Yeah, she had
So-
two.
The cream color of the building itself is 10 YR
9.5.
9, and the chrome is 5.
5
5.
0.5.
oh, or 0.5.
0.5,
Okay.
yes. 0.5. Okay.
All right, we ready?
Okay.
Any other questions?
A couple things real quick. This is just, and Lourdes, weigh in on this. The ends where, the very end where there's you're looking at this end of the parapet wall, they look so truncated to me on that inside. I wonder, could you just redo the finish so that it matches the ends? Otherwise, see the two ends of the one above the sign?
So this is,
It's the end
I
of
think
that.
what you wanna do is turn the corner.
Turn the
That's what you're-
corner.
This is only the side view
Yeah.
of the entrance.
But what I'm saying is, could you turn the corner with that parapet treatment so that it,
Wrap it so that and actually it is. I mean, the
It should be,
rendering
the rendering is not showing as wrapping, but wrapping over the brick only, so that it's a 45-degree.
Yes, it does wrap.
Oh, yeah, you can see
Okay.
here.
okay.
Yeah.
See, okay, I'm gonna trust you that that's right. And the other thing I wanna ask about, I have to ask about it again, is the rooftop equipment, because we're having tremendous problems on the corridor with rooftop equipment. It shouldn't be visible from any direction at all. So what we've been wanting to see is the equipment dotted in, so you can see it's actually behind that parapet wall.
Right.
And it's covered on all sides. It needs to be covered from, and this is especially sensitive because it's a corner lot.
Right.
So you're gonna have a lot of visibility.
And Tim did bring that up, and just to make sure that it was completely behind the parapet. You couldn't see it from the scenic corridor at all, from either side, basically. And it is, we verified that with the architect, that it is completely covered by that parapet on both scenic corridor sides, so you couldn't see
If
it
it's
from
not-
203 or 98. Nope, you can call me.
I know, it's gonna be a problem.
You-
It's gotten to be a very sensitive issue, I'm just telling you, so, that's all I had.
Any other questions for the applicant? Are there any comments from the audience? Okay, discussion?
I want to clarify one thing. I'm a little confused on the green color. I want to make sure that we've
Okay.
got that right. Is that the 5GY 7.53? Is that correct? And then the stucco is the 10YR 9.5?
Well, it's 9 and 0.5.
0.5.
It's hue, value, and chroma. So the hue is 9, the chroma is 0.5.
Okay.
It says,
Any mixed-use discussion? centers
depicted are not subject
Do we have a motion?
setback requirement.
Motion to approve with the accent color as being the green Munsell color, 5GY 7.53, and the stucco color being 10YR 9.05.
Okay, wait a sec, let me confirm one more time.
Okay. Is there a second?
So, GY 7.53, yes.
Are y'all okay?
So 10YR 9.5,
Or 9.0.5.
9 0.5,
That's what you have on
yes.
your plan.
And 5GY 7 and a half, 3, yes.
Sorry.
All right.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, our next item, Shades Building Sign Number 1. Shades is on the corner of 98 and 30A, so they can have a sign on each road. So that's why there's 2 building signs. So the first one is, it's a request for a building sign 242.496 inches by 19 inches for a total of 32 square feet. It's on 6.625 acres with a future land use of VMU. This one is the one that's facing 98, Shades Bar and Grill. This is in compliance with the scenic corridor requirements. It meets everything for a building sign. So, I'll entertain any
Right.
questions.
That faces 98?
This one faces 98, yes. I mean, the building is kind of turned,
Sort of.
so these signs aren't 90 degrees to the road, but yeah, this one faces Highway 98.
Okay.
They have 2 signs now, right?
Yes, there's 2 signs there now. And all they're doing with the other one is removing the panel and putting in a new panel. Not this one, it's the next one.
Is there any comment from the applicant?
Pretty simple, straightforward.
Okay. Any questions?
It may have already been mentioned, but what are those, letters made out of?
They're reverse channel letters,
Okay.
which gives the halo effect. It's actually going to be an improvement on what's on the building now.
All right, discussion? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, building sign number 2 is 80 inches by 31.5 inches for a total of 17.5 square feet. This one, like I mentioned, faces 30A, and there's actually, you can see the before. Is there a before? I guess there's not a before and after, but there's a,
Yeah.
yeah,
There is.
she shows the before and after. So that's a panel. They're just removing this panel and putting this one in. So, and it is also in compliance with the scenic corridor requirements, but I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is they remove the panel, replace it with another one, but these are also reverse channel ladders.
What color are the letters?
I do not know the colors. The color of the letters, are they black? Black.
And is the background going to be a different color than the color of the rest of the panels around the top of the building?
Yeah, everything's white. It's
Everything's
just,
white.
it's the others are kind of louvered if you look at the picture, and this is solid. It's a solid panel.
But they're the same color.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the other panel is white. It's just, it's kind of louvered, so you see those
So you're
lines.
seeing shadows to make it
Yeah,
look like a different
yeah.
color. Gotcha.
Yeah. They just painted the building completely white.
Yeah, and they actually did that without approval. They're supposed to, when they repaint a building, even though white is an approved color, they're supposed to get approval before they repaint a building in the scenic corridor.
Yeah, they are. So I'm not the design professional, but here is my only concern about this is I am not 100% sure, but I think if you're looking at that, the sign we're looking at now, you can also see the other one to the left. And they're different fonts, it appears, from these pictures. I guess that's okay. I mean, it just seems like they would. The two signs I think before were totally the same, weren't they? Weren't they both like that? We don't have a before on the other one. It's funny. I've looked at it a zillion times and I cannot recall it right now.
Well, it is small, the other one is smaller because it's the longer area.
Definitely different font.
Yeah.
But it's the font that I'm.
No, it's
Yeah, it's the font.
my error, incorrect.
It's the same font.
It's the same font.
Okay,
Yes, most definitely.
that feels a lot better
Yeah,
to
you
me.
wouldn't want to do that.
No,
it's
that's
the
why,
same
that's why I
font.
brought it up.
So the
Exactly.
font on the one we just approved will be the font
Same
on the
font.
second one? Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, it's just not shown like that font.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, exactly, yeah.
Which I think the other font is
The other font's
more
much nicer.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly,
It's much nicer.
yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay,
So now the building's white. It's not this color.
No.
all right. Any other questions? All right. Any comments from the audience?
In fact, it was on this proof,
Oh yeah,
Awesome.
but not on that.
that's it. Okay, good.
Sorry.
Okay,
No worries.
all right. Discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Alrighty, Sacred Heart Medical Park sign deviation. This is a request by Vintage Art and Sign to allow a deviation for a building sign to project above the roof line on the east side of the building on 6.61 acres with the future land use of Coastal Center. This is at the
market shops, this board approved the sign facing 98. This is the exact same issue. They've got a master signage plan. I could approve it under that plan. However, because of the way that building is built, the shape of the building, there's hardly any facade area to place the sign. So really, they don't have much choice but to place it like they did the one on the front, above the roof line. So the situation is exactly the same as previously. They just want one on facing the side street there. What is that? Sandestin Boulevard.
And this is exactly the same configuration as the one on 98?
Yes, but I think it's a little bit
Pretty much.
smaller.
Slightly smaller.
Yeah,
Is different.
But the configuration of the sign and how it's mounted and why it's above the roof line, that's all consistent? Yep. Oh, it's reversed, yeah.
Is the difference in verbiage just the fact that this says at the market shops?
The one in the front was approved at pediatric after hours. With the
But otherwise, it meets the signage, master signage plan?
yes, it does.
Any other questions? Anything else from the applicant? Okay. Anything from the audience? All right, any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that passes.
Okay, Mattress Now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sign deviation. This is a request for a deviation to allow the placement of 2 tenant names on an existing monument sign and a deviation to allow the sign face area to increase from 26.82 square feet to 40 square feet on 0.35 acres with a future land use of Coastal Center. This sign was originally approved. It's an existing monument sign that's been sitting out there since 2007. It was originally approved for Destin Yarn Shop. Subsequently, Mattress Now and Destin Cleaners have moved into that building and put their name on the monument. But that requires an approval to switch out the names, even though it's on an existing sign. But also, because of the way the sign is made, it's quite a bit over the required, I guess I didn't include it. It's quite a bit over on what's allowed in terms of copy area, because based on the size of the sign, the copy area is 35% of the sign. That would allow for 26.82 square feet, but the existing sign has 40 square feet. I should also mention that this request is due to code enforcement. Code enforcement went out there, asked them if they got the sign approved. Actually, what drew code enforcement to the sign was they changed the color. Now, of course, color isn't regulated for signage, but once they investigated more, then we determined, well, the sign as currently out there wasn't ever approved. It was approved from Destin Yarn Shop. So, if I can talk, the request is to keep what they've got. What's already out there on the ground, that's what they're requesting. They want to keep what they've got. So, I'll answer any questions.
So am I reading the staff report correctly that we have 2 deviations?
2 deviations.
More than one
One's
tenant?
for 2 tenants, because the way the code reads, you can have the name of the plaza or the name of the business, or you can have 2 anchors. This building's not big enough to have any anchors, because an anchor has to be 25,000 square feet. So for 2 names, and then the other deviation is to allow for the additional copy area. And the applicant is here.
Any questions for Tim? Any questions for the applicant?
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Karen Hale. I'm the primary tenant, Mattress Now. I'm thank you for taking time to listen to me. I basically am just asking to leave my sign in the current state. After the notification from the field agent, I realized that I guess I didn't understand that I couldn't have 2 tenants on the sign. And I started looking around and I realized even everyone surrounding me has multiple tenants on their sign. And although I'm sure so many are in compliance, I guess I'm just asking to carry on my business and leave my sign like it is. That's really all I've got.
Why did you change the color to green? Isn't the mattress now red on the building?
The channel letters are red. There's been so much competition. I've been in the mattress business for 17 years now, and I was fortunate enough for the first part of that to be one of the few mattress stores in Walton County. There are now 3 mattress firms surrounding me. And what I realize, they're based out of Texas, and they've got about 3,000 stores nationwide. They're huge. And I had to struggle to separate myself because every mattress store pretty much identifies himself with their delivery trucks and their building signs with white, red, and or black. And in order to stand out, I had to do something very different to even be noticed. So we rebranded approximately 10 months ago with the green because there's no competitor with the green signage. And I'm just trying to stay in business and be competitive. Thank you very much. Okay.
Y'all have any other questions? Discussion?
You want to take comments?
Yeah, anything from the audience? Discussion?
One question, has the sign been, like, was it refurbished at all before you put the front on it? I mean, as far as words, because the sides of it and everything, was it kind of refurbished, or is it the same old sign just with the new?
It's the same structure. The structure has stucco on it. The structure of the sign has been, the paint has been freshened up, but none of the colors have changed. The colors have always been identical to match the building.
Okay, so it has been freshened up, because it doesn't look like it in my picture.
Oh, okay. This might be a little more clear.
Do you have what the building looks like with?
Yes, this has the building in the background.
Oh, great.
Can we keep that, Ms. Hill?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
It's a good fit. The paint, my dad painted it and kind of freshened it up, but he used the same paint colors that are on the building.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it's much different in here than it is online.
Okay, I'm glad that shows it better.
Make sure I get the picture, or Karen gets the picture back. Yeah, we need the samples too.
I sympathize with the need to compete, but I just don't see that there's a hardship here in the building, the placement, the shape, size, or anything that warrants not holding this center to the same standards that we hold other centers to. And that concerns me. I mean, there are competitiveness issues everywhere on the corridor, so I think I just don't think I can justify it based on what we are supposed to approve deviations.
Yeah, unfortunately, you have to hold the same standards for everybody.
Oh, everyone has to follow the same?
Yes.
Yep, I
Yeah,
understand.
everybody in 98. and
Right, on
everybody
the
that
scenic
applies-
corridor?
Right.
Okay, I
And
understand.
and there may be violations out there now, but we can't base our approval decisions on violations that might be out there on any issue. So,
Right. Is it what part of it is are you hanging up with? The size request or the multiple tenant or?
both
Both?
of those are
Okay.
deviations from the
Size,
code.
request, and even color.
Is it
Not, you know.
The green color
Well,
is not an approved color?
Well, and I guess just to be clear, so we're only hearing right now the deviation requests.
Yeah.
So we're not even looking at the approval of the sign.
Of the sign itself.
So it's just the deviation request for the area and the number of tenants.
Yeah.
That's what you guys are looking at tonight.
Can I take another moment to, there's an adjoining property right behind me that has 4 tenant signs, and I've measured it. They're over the allowed space. Shell and Circle K are not in compliance according to the Walton County rules. This is all within less than a mile of my building. These people are not in compliance. They have 3 tenants. These people have 4 tenants. These people have 2 tenants, and their usage is great. I just don't know why I'm being discriminated against with the code enforcer when everybody around me, no one follows the rules. And I'm not trying to break the rules. I just want to be treated fairly.
Well, code enforcement will get the other ones as well eventually, hopefully.
Can I report them?
Yes. Sure.
Okay. I just want to be treated fairly, because the guy behind me,
Yep.
he happens to sell mattresses too, and he's nowhere in compliance. He could be the complaining force. I don't know that, but it's not in my heart to report anybody. I just, when you talk about everyone follows the same rules, I have to beg to differ. They don't.
No, I didn't say everyone follows the
But
same rules.
the goal is
Every,
right.
we,
Our job
yeah.
is to enforce everybody the same way.
Well, not
Right.
enforce, approve.
Approve.
And code enforcement, after we approve things, is a whole different ballgame and issue, and
Right.
we don't, that has
Right.
nothing to do with what we do.
Well, I'm as of today, my fines are up to $2,200, $100 a day, and I'm doing the same thing these people are doing. And I've been in this business for 17 years, and I just want to stay in business. Thank you.
I've made my comments.
Any other comments?
I mean, what can we say about code enforcement?
Yep. I'm biting my tongue.
Yeah. And Tim, can you work with the applicant on ways to bring the sign into compliance?
So the fines don't get added on?
Yeah.
Sure, I mean, if the deviations aren't approved, I think she would be fine if she removed the other tenant. I mean, if she removed that off of the sign, I think it would be in compliance with the sign copy area, as well as, one name per sign.
But Tim, I think she has to come back for approval on the sign, right? Because of the changes that have been made.
And it was never approved in the first place.
Channel letters?
Well, no, the code
No.
says that the scenic corridor specialist can approve changes to a monument sign that's been previously approved, and it was approved in 2007, so I think I can approve a name change, taking off the other tenant, because I've done that
Yeah.
a couple other times where they're just switching out the name. So I don't think it has to come back, but I'm just saying I think that would bring
That's
her in
come to you.
compliance if she just takes off the other tenant.
But you have to,
Yeah, she would still have to apply for that change. She still have
it
to
just doesn't
turn-
come to us.
Right.
It comes to you.
She still have to turn in a sign application and show what the sign is going from and to, but I think under the code that I can approve that.
And just taking off this extra tenant would resolve both.
I think so. I
Code
mean,
issues.
they-
You can
she'd have
look at
to-
it,
She'd have
but-
to give me the dimensions, but I think it would. I think it would meet both criteria.
Is there any way to stop the fines to
As soon as she
occur
gets the
further?
approval of the sign from Tim?
Yeah, as soon
that
as
would stop it.
the sign comes into compliance, then the fines will stop, because it's every day there's a violation. So as soon as it comes into compliance, the fines cease.
But it's a situation where they can make the application into you immediately, and that they don't have to wait for us for another month.
Right, that's right.
Okay.
So she could do it tomorrow?
Yeah, yes, she
Yeah.
could do it tomorrow.
And it's just taking off that bottom desk and cleaners part, that's it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, she has to show me the dimensions, but I think that would
To make
solve
sure
it, yes.
meets the area requirements.
That's the biggest issue.
All right. If there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to deny.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Okay. Next is Dixie Electric Car of Destin building sign. This is a request for a building sign measuring 134.6 inches by 24 inches for a total of 22.43 square feet on 3.61 acres with the future land use of VMU. This sign is in compliance with the scenic corridor, and I'll entertain any questions the board may have.
What are the yellow blocks on the rendering?
The yellow box.
Blocks of color across, I'm just curious, I don't think it matters, but I
On
just don't.
where it's superimposed.
Is that something we're supposed to be paying attention to?
I think that's just white out.
Doesn't seem to be labeled. I don't see where it's labeled anywhere.
Okay.
I don't know what that's supposed to represent.
Because it just takes off here, and it seems like it's like a tape, you know?
Is
Mhm.
it Imperial
Here.
Marquee awning?
Is the person in the audience?
No, it's not an awning.
The person in the audience?
We don't have that drawing slide.
What the yellow is, or what it represents, the yellow. Doesn't seem to be
See,
marked.
nothing, it's just covering those markings up or whatever's underneath that. That has nothing to do with us, we're only
It's
in here.
like tape.
Okay.
We're only Dixie Electric's all we're talking about, those are just something to, I don't even know why they were on there, but
Okay.
it looks like that yellow whiteout tape,
Yeah, that's what I was
it's
thinking.
just a
Just
distraction.
making sure. Okey-doke.
Yeah, we're not painting that yellow.
No, I mean, the building's definitely not gonna be yellow.
This is the only area we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, apparently they're just trying to cover up whatever's underneath.
Okay.
Which is another question.
Probably some signs.
Other people's signs, probably, yeah.
Are there any questions for Tim or for the applicant? Does the applicant have any comments?
No.
Okay. Anything from the audience? All right, discussion?
Besides that everything's all in compliance?
Does it really say?
This one says it's in
Based on the size,
This doesn't count.
Oh, it doesn't say of Destin underneath, does it?
73.33.
Destin? No.
So it's at 37.
This one doesn't.
37.8%.
On the face of the
Tim,
building.
which, the one on the building says Dixie Electric Car of Destin?
That's the name of the business, yeah.
So is that what, because in the image of the sign itself, it doesn't say that, it just says Dixie Electric, so which is it?
Yeah, electric car.
Electric car.
That's what's submitted, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just,
Yeah, so,
not the of
yeah, it's just.
That's the one.
Dixie Electric.
Okay.
So it doesn't say of Destin?
No.
Okay,
No,
so that's better.
I don't know why they put it on the building like that, but, I mean, that is the name of the business, Dixie Electric Car of Destin, but that's the sign that I
Okay.
reviewed.
Okay,
Yeah, well,
we're not talking about
they
the
also
sign on
put
the
the
building
yellow
right
mark
now.
on the same drawing, so.
Right, that's right.
This might be another building. Okay.
Okay,
I move to approve.
Second.
I would just make it clear, maybe in your motion, that there's no of Destin.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's a good idea.
I move to approve without the of Destin part of the sign.
all right. You still second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes.
Okay, now the Dixie Electric Car monument sign. This is a request for a monument sign measuring 120 inches by 94 inches for a total of 78.33 square feet. Well, actually, that's what we advertised. That's what was submitted originally, but this drawing is actually 73.33. It decreased by 5 square feet. And because of that, it exceeds the maximum 35% of copier. It's 37.8%. So that's the only issue with this sign, because when, at 78, it was in compliance, but at 73, it's not.
Is there a request for deviation?
No.
No, sorry if I may, but what we propose.
State your name, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Steve Norton, I'm with Heim Signs. And our intention is to make it into compliance. I think this is an artist error, percentages, I do. And it won't be anything. Next week I'll submit a drawing to correct that. But I do believe that's just an error on the.
So.
You just put in your motion that, motion to
Approve
approve
correction.
contingent upon it meeting the signed copy area requirement.
And it's written on here that it's ground illuminated?
Yes.
You got uplights, okay.
Okay.
What, the ABCD that's on there, are those,
That is for the changeable copy. The letters can spell different things.
okay, what sort of things are you gonna insert in there?
Golf carts for sale.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, to be honest with you, that's a customer.
75% off?
Yeah. Just for you, Lee.
So I can
For
get my-
Lee.
But you can't get me in writing because that's not my company.
Free rides on golf carts.
Yeah,
Any other
I can't
questions?
even get that discount.
Anything from the audience? Okay, discussion? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Contingent upon.
Contingent upon the size of the sign.
Coming into
being in
conformance.
compliance.
Yes.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank
Gentlemen.
you.
Last but not least, Acme Oyster House sign deviation. This is a request for several deviations. The first is for 3 canopy signs on the north side of the building. One is at the entrance as you walk in, and the other 2 are on either side of that entrance. Second request is a building sign on the rear of the building, just like Moolah La and Thrills. They want, and this sign meets all the requirements. It's just on the rear of the building. The next deviation is a height deviation for the sign on the east side. What it is the same sign as they have on the front. Under the master signage plan, I've already approved the sign on the front, but on the side, they're turning it up on its side, so now it's too tall. It went from 36 inches this way, which is into compliance, to 72 this way, which is not. So they want a deviation to go from 36 inches to 70 inches. They also, a deviation to allow 2 canopy signs on the rear of the building, 3 in the front, 2 in the rear, and then a deviation, the one over the entrance, it says Acme Oyster House, also exceeds the height limit of 36 inches. So for the canopy sign over the entrance, a deviation in sign height to go from 36 inches to 40 inches. On 5.47 acres with a future land use coastal center, this is at Seascape Town Center.
Okay.
So that's the total request.
Hey, Jim, real quick, the east corner building is actually, it's not the east side, it's actually
It's a
corner.
corner.
of
You
the
gotta
building.
come up.
Yeah, if you come up and,
Oh, yes,
yeah,
ma'am.
that would be great.
Well, it faces Seascape Drive, so that would be the east side of the building.
Oh, no, I didn't know, it's like, it's like on the, where it meets.
If you
It's
put-
on that corner, so I
If
didn't
you
know.
give us your name, just for the record, thank
Sorry
you.
about
That's okay.
Gil Osterloh
Uh-huh.
of Acme Oyster House.
Awesome, thanks.
And I've got some displays here for you if you'd like me to run.
Okay, great, thank you.
I think I'm following this. Well, it's like they took a horizontal sign and turned it up, but it's faces 98.
One of my favorite restaurants, by the way. I love Acme. And so happy to have them here and opening up this other location. And as everyone's aware, Acme has an iconic style of branding. Of course, most of y'all all may be familiar with the one that, of course, is in the village, the Baytown Wharf, and most of their locations, almost all of them, carry this type of branding. It has the awnings that produce, that list seafood, gumbo, crab cakes or something in your jambalaya. And of course, almost every Acme you go to has the sign, neon lit up, Acme verticals hanging on the side, and then they have some on the front and in the rear. There's some other locations where they're at in their home state of Louisiana. And this is projected canopy you see here is the one that they are requesting to allow. The canopy is already allowed. It's actually the signage that they were not aware of in the master sign plan that the county considered the lettering to be signage. Otherwise, they would have gone through that permitting process, and it wasn't something to circumvent or get around the permitting process. But that's what's being proposed for this particular awning here. And this is their locations over in Beverage, where they still have awnings with lettering. Same here, and with the traditional neon Acme sign. And when the project was first developed, they had a master sign plan that they were following. A lot of confusion, I think, was from in your sign right of way, where you don't have to go before the design board, is 400 feet from the right of way. And this is where this parcel here is where Acme is actually located, Seascape Town Center, and this distance represented, I think it's well over 400 feet from the right of way. And of course, the county considers this entire area part of that master sign plan, so it actually abuts that. So that's why we're here before you today. But this is, and I'm going to come back to this in a second, because the road cantilevers around, so you can view this road, that Seascape Drive from the rear, and this is now where this pond is. This is the parking for the clubhouse, and then they have a back patio here. I don't know if you've been able to go, there's some while it's under construction. This is a photo I took from some different angles. I had to do the same thing. I had to swing from the roadway myself, and there's a lot of marsh down there. While I was taking these pictures, you'd think being from here, I'd realize that fire ants can swim and float. And I got a quick dose of fire ants in there. However, you'll notice that there is you'll see thrills, which I believe your board approved in for Yiga. Quite a massive deviation in January. And then there's this is the view from the roadway of Acme sign. And what we're trying to do is take one more sign like that and put it that same size, and we're just put it on end and put it on that corner right there. And it'll look the same from there. However, Jim explained that it exceeds, was it 36? Yeah. By doing so, it exceeds 36 inches in height when you do that. And then you can see the awnings where we're proposing to put the lettering on. There's the entry awning, and then the canopies from the front view. Same thing here. Just what I do is I tried to move around so trees wouldn't block other signs, so you can kind of see how far the depth really is from the street. Because this project isn't designed; these signs are not designed in any way to be visible from traffic or draw traffic in off the street. It's designed for the pedestrian traffic within the development. It is so minuscule you have to squint when you're sitting from there to even see anything that we've got there. Especially so when you have the little tiny letters in on the awning. And that's another same view with trees obscuring that side. And then along the corner here you can still see, thrills are still, but that's a straight on view where you can still see how small the original sign is. And that's the same one we want to put in the back as well. Still that size and that discernible from that distance. Here's the rear, and this is Seascape Drive. Pictures taken from, this is Seascape Drive. This is the rear, and you'll see the rear canopies. And this distance is taken from the entrance to, there's that little pond I showed you here, right there. And then there's that parking lot. And that's the entrance to that parking lot. So that's what you're looking at from the rear. And there's the approved signage for the variance for Thrill, the glass arcade. And then again, that little tiny Acme sign that we saw, it will be over here to this entrance. And then there will be lettering placed here is what we're proposing. relative, these kind of side by side. You kind of see how this is the rear of the building. Another one a little closer up. And this is the actual project. This is that actual sign, what it looks like when you're close up. And that's one of the approved. That's actually approved. And we actually had two of them actually approved. Fortunately, Tim had advised us that the sign in the rear needed to be visible from a roadway in order for us. So that's another deviation that we were requesting. Our goal is to put, and I believe you have before you what this looks like with the lettering. I have copies of that as well with me, if you'd like me to present it to you. This, same thing, another view. Of course, we don't have the portal lights there anymore. But same thing, it's all designed for pedestrian. It was not designed, and it's barely discernible, from the 400 feet right away. And then I just wanted to kind of blue this up a little bit just so we could see the difference, how minuscule the Acme signs, the extra ones we're asking for, is compared to the neighbor a few doors down. And again, this is iconic branding for Acme, what people expect when they go to any Acme, and that's the corner. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that's when I was confused when y'all said east side, how you depicted what east or west was. I just on the corner. But it's actually, I didn't want anybody to think that we were putting up, trying to put a flat sign on that side. It'll be that vertical sign up and down, just on that corner.
And that's facing 98.
Yeah.
The sign.
Yes, ma'am.
The sign itself.
Absolutely, you would be able to view that from 98. Albeit very, very tiny. You'd probably need binoculars to actually probably make out the word Acme from that distance of the roadway. These are, I believe, these are the proposed lettering, what it looks like, and this is the end result for our lettering. The same as we have now in the village, and all the other Acme locations. And this is it, my project. And these are back. So front and back, same thing with the awning. And we would hope that that's, like I said, Acme we thought we were following the master sign plan. And it was just misconstrued how far it was from the right of way. And we asked for that deviation so it carries on, so Acme can carry on the tradition of the way all the other Acmes are built, the way that everybody here perceives Acme to be when they've already visited the one in Sandestin. And that's that's how they kind of realize and want that Acme to be as well.
Are all those, the words already on the awnings that are in place now?
Excuse me, ma'am?
Are the words already on the awnings?
No, they're not. They're covered up because we actually got a code violation. The good thing, that's how we found out to do all of this yeah, we actually didn't superimpose those. Those were actually taken before and then we had to cover them. But they are now, the ones you saw without the lettering is covered up. Which we did so immediately. Right.
Yeah, they're there, but they're covered up. And as long as they're covered up, they're not in violation. So there's no code case on this. Just to clarify though, we've treated this entire project, Seascape Town Center, that it's in the scenic corridor. Some of this may exceed the 400 feet, but just to let you know, when it came in, this board approved it. From day one, we've considered that entire development in the scenic corridor, even though portions of it may exceed the 400-foot limitation.
Mr. Oswald, I'm sorry. Are you done with your presentation?
Well, I was going to let the board know.
Yeah,
and it's something that we did not aware of. Yes.
I just wanted, I guess before we went too far into this, and this is my fault, I should have announced this at the beginning of the meeting. So for you to have a deviation granted, all 4 of the members would have to vote to approve that deviation. This is normally a 7-member board.
Yes, I'm aware.
So I just wanted to make that clear to you. If you would rather go forward tonight, that's fine, or you can wait until next month to see if we have all the members here.
Well, my
Whichever you
question
prefer.
would be this: if it doesn't go our way and we decide we can't show up at the next board meeting, and we wouldn't be able to.
No,
would be applied. We
yeah, if
we
it's
feel the decision to be.
Yeah.
We would just appeal the decision.
To the ZBA, I think is where it goes.
Okay. Can I confer with, the
Sure.
registrar?
And I'm so sorry that we
No,
didn't
no, no,
announce it at
I
the
was
beginning.
aware, but I
Okay.
knew that, I knew going forward that we would need a majority, we would need.
Well, we would
three.
we'd actually need all
Actually,
four.
we
of
need
them.
all four because that's your form for the seven.
Yep.
No.
For
This
for
board-
deviation to be granted.
This board and the ZBA are a little different. Each one requires a minimum of 4 votes,
For a deviation to be granted.
Okay.
or for a variance with the ZBA. So it's not, it's basically, it's a supermajority.
Did you have any questions prior to me conferring with them regarding the scope of the project or?
No.
Give me 1 second.
Would the deviations be voted on separately, or would it be one?
We have about, what, 7 before you?
I mean, it'd be up to the board how they'd want to handle it. If there's some that they would like to grant, we could take those individually.
I mean, typically, we do vote individually. We try to help people out by advertising it as one, but we typically vote on each one when we have multiples.
We just have to see how the motion goes.
Are these neon in any way?
They are, then that's part of, they were approved as part of the master sign plan, because that is part of Acme's branding. At every location is an Acme sign in neon. It's no way is it garish or overpowered. As you can see from,
Yeah, the master signage plan allows for neon
And it
based
is-
on the landlord's approval on a case-by-case basis, so.
and it's very, very, very tiny. I mean, it's compared to the neighbors that are there.
You
And
had
that is-
you had a picture that showed the sign bigger? Did you-
I do, absolutely.
Okay.
Certainly did. And it's the same that's in use at the, these are the exact duplicate replicas of the ones that are in use presently in the village. There it is.
And that sign's up already?
That is correct. That is an approved sign. And we're approved for one more. It's just that Tim, did you say that the reason the other one was not, we couldn't put it on the back is because it was not facing a roadway?
Right. The code talks about you can have one sign facing the main road. If you're on 2 roads, then you can have 2 signs. That's why you can have the sign, if it met the height, I would have went ahead and approved the sign on the east side because it faces Seascape Drive. So you're allowed, if you're on a corner, you can have 2 signs, but it does not address being on the rear of the building, so that's why you need a deviation.
And the only one people that can see from the rear are going to be guests of the resort, and we have a representative from Seascape, who's actually our landlord, who has no objection to that. Seascape's voiced no objections. And the other one would be simply the awnings themselves, which are indicative of Seascape. And we would have been approved for the other one had we not, no one had realized that at that time, at that juncture, that once you flip the sign up, you exceed the 36-inch. Which is what they typically, right now, which is in use at, which is the very first one that I showed you. And that is, because it's a traditional Louisiana feel, of course, where Acme's based.
And that shows what the neon looks like when it's lighted?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Okay.
It certainly does. Is that something that, can we go so far at least to determine if we could vote on, if instead of having all our eggs in one basket, that we could pick and choose? Instead of waiting 30 days, it's, because we're halfway through in our season. And
How many deviations are we talking about?
It's a bunch. I'm okay with doing them one at a time.
The corner sign, the back sign, the one on the awning, and the letters on the awning.
Yeah.
And the bigger 40-inch versus 36.
We've got 7.
Yeah.
7, yeah.
Deviations?
The 3 canopies on the front, 3, 2 in the back, 5. The sign on the east, 6, and the canopy height on the front, so 7. 7
And
deviations.
Are there comments from the audience on this?
Hi, I'm Tim Banfeld with the Scenic Corridor Foundation. I'm a huge fan of Acme, huge fan. I lived in New Orleans for 37 years, and I'm familiar with the branding of Acme. But Louisiana has different, well, probably no codes than we have over here in Walton County. And I do believe that the design codes are there for a reason, and deviations are granted for hardships. I just hope the board would take that into consideration. It's nothing against Acme or anything like that. I'm a big fan, but I'm a bigger fan of keeping the integrity of our design codes in this area. Thank you.
Anything else from the audience? Go ahead.
We appreciate that. Thank you very much for speaking and bringing that concern. Acme, it's an iconic branding of them, and that's how they're recognized. And they have minimalized it so much so as not to, affect the corridor. And the setback, had this not been a master sign project, we would not even be here before the board today, because it is about 448 feet, I think, from the first sign. So we would not even have to go through the design board, only because of just the scope of the project, and it happens to apply up here. If our property line ended here, it would be a non-issue. And I would hope the board would consider that. My client Acme has scaled this down to extremely small proportions compared to what is 2 doors down, which is about a 10-foot tall thrill compared to something so small. And I would hope you'd weigh that in your considerations of what the board previously approved for 2 doors down things.
This says it's approximately 390 feet. So how far is the front of the building from US 98? I'm hearing different numbers.
Yeah, that number came from Thrills. That's what their drawing showed from the 98 right away to that building. They may have more accurate numbers, I don't know, but I pulled that from what Thrills submitted for their request.
I mean, the sign in the drawing, the Acme sign in the drawing here, it's shown as a bigger sign than the one that they showed the existing. This sign. It's shown a lot bigger. Over the canopy. Over the rounded canopy.
That was the original architectural grade drawings. It's been scaled, apparently it's been scaled down since then. So it's not as big as what's being presented there.
So is the other Acme sign that's already existing up there, is that gonna be above this Acme sign that's on the canopy?
I believe that's what I just, it is. This is the front entrance.
Okay,
Right, this is the front entrance, and that is the sign. It had been scaled down quite some. I think that might have been the original projection that they wanted to, and then discovered that you couldn't exceed these.
So that's to our sign code
That is correct.
specifications?
Is that? And to their master signage plan, which is why it's already there.
And why it's neon, because their master signage plan allows for neon.
And originally, I believe how it ended up that way, I believe that it was going to be bigger. But their plan was to take the signs from the existing one here, but they decided to extend their lease through Labor Day. So they kept those signs in place. And we're going to master new signs, but then just kept what was in the same dimension, same sign person, instead of making a bigger sign. Everything was already in the AutoCAD thing for them. So that's how we ended up with, and they're not asking to expand it, and they're actually allowed one more of these.
Tim, could that sign have been a little bit bigger? It could have been?
I believe so. I can't remember off the top, but I don't think it was 54 square feet. They're allowed 54 square feet. I want to say it's like 36, maybe. I'm not sure.
It's 3 foot by, I believe 6, so it's about 18 square foot.
Well, they're allowed 54 square feet.
Because I mean, just from my point of view, I would have thought that sign would have been bigger. It would have looked better.
Yeah, we do, but we use the ones that were exactly. So we scaled the project. We scaled it down quite considerably. What's allowed, because that's a 36 inches by 72, And the only reason that it, like I said before, we just wanna handle it right, that we extend that 36. And the,
Well, but, you know,
and the lettering is so small, I mean, from the roadway, you actually would need binoculars to see this. This was all designed not to be seen from the roadway, but by.
well, the problem is, I mean, my problem is that, you know, like I said, this board has to be fair to all of the retail people and everybody that is under this scenic corridor. And, you know, if we grant deviations to you, then we would have to grant deviations to everybody else. And I don't see where the hardship is.
Well,
Because if it's a pedestrian, if it's signs for pedestrians, then they don't need the larger
I know,
signs.
but this same board approved this thrills that is.
That doesn't
But that
matter.
that was per code, and your Acme sign could have been as large as 50 square feet, and you didn't choose to do that. That's not
Well,
my, that's not my,
Can you explain,
my
I understand,
decision.
then why would they, what was their deviation request for? My
They
understanding
didn't
was
have
that-
a deviation.
I think they did.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
did.
they did.
Yeah, they
Size
did.
of the letters, just-
Yeah, it's excessively huge, yeah, and it's front
It is
and back.
excessively huge,
Yeah,
actually.
it is.
They
So-
got
That's
two.
why I'm
Let's not
trying
make
to-
that
I'm trying to
mistake
talk
again.
about that y'all are-
They got two
Well-
deviations. They got, the letter height is 36 inches, and from the top of what they call the winky dinks is 48 inches. So those were their two deviations for thrills.
And they're pretty big. It's gargantuan in scope to what they're.
I think we all agree, which is not in your favor here. No, we did not expect it to be anywhere
if you
close
look
to
at
that
the
big.
back- Yeah, if you look at, where's that here? Cause I have that picture that I took from the rear showing well, here's the front one. And then the one that shows the rear
I
of
don't-
the same, it's, and this is standing right up on the building. And this is what the same design review board approved back in January for a few doors down, and you can look and see how tiny our sign is. And we're actually, like I said, we're just approved for one more, we're just asking for a third one to be, one of these is actually in the back, no one can see it on the back, except unless you're a guest at Seascape Resort.
I don't have a problem with things on the back.
I don't either. I mean,
It's the front that I'm worried about.
Can we go ahead and vote on things separated like that then, and vote on the back?
I'm fine with-
separate from the front and
if
stuff?
that's
I
the
mean,
way-
I
we
motion to
somewhere-
approve the sign on the back.
Second.
Alright, we get that.
That out of the way.
That's all.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the sign in the rear. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now the lettering on the awning.
As I say, do you
Okay,
want
so
us to,
Mr.
you want
Osler,
us
do you
to
want-
vote on these this week, this month?
We have the lettering on the awning,
What was just approved, what just passed?
The back.
The back.
The rear neon sign.
I mean, in all honesty, it sounds to me like the point of contention has to do with that, with the blade neon sign on the side of the building. The lettering on the awnings, it is a big part of what we do, and I think, I haven't heard any discussion about that. Is there any way that we can carve this up a little bit, vote on the neon sign later?
Yeah, it's up to you guys, but I guess we're not gonna get like an impression from the board. You guys make a decision if you
We'll,
wanna go forward tonight or not.
let's postpone that, the corner sign,
Right.
and then you wanna go forward with the lettering on the awnings? Okay, can we?
That's fine, if the board's okay with that.
Okay.
I mean, I just look at this, would I want lettering on every awning on the corridor? No, I would not. And this is no different from any other awning on the corridor in any way that I can see. A lot of them are in pedestrian areas. So that's
And
just,
Tim, is each instance of lettering on the awning considered to be a separate sign?
Yes, under our code, because, depending on the code, they may not count it as a sign, but under our code, it meets the definition of a sign. So jambalaya is a sign. Shrimp is a sign.
Then can we break it up and do like the Acme Oyster House at the front of the canopy separate from voting on the other canopy
Yeah.
things at this time?
Sure.
Okay.
I thought they were.
I think they are
voting
separate,
on
aren't
the
they?
Oh,
smaller.
okay, okay.
But actually, I left one, there's actually 8, because you're actually voting to allow that round canopy and the sign height, so there's actually 8 deviations.
The sign
involved.
height is which one? On the canopy?
The one over the door.
Right.
Because it's 3 lines,
The
Acme,
one on the canopy, over the door.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
it's
on,
3,
it's at
it's
the end
3
of that canopy.
lines, so it's 40 inches tall, and it's 36 inches is the max. But, yeah, I mean, you can handle it however you want.
If you want to pass that around, that's what we superimpose that over the awning. And then what Tim's referring to is the overall height of the letters is the deviation from that. They exceeded it just by a little bit.
So do we want to take up the individual words on the awnings? Not this one right now, but the individual words
The
on
small
the
ones.
awnings, like the jambalaya and those words right now? Okay.
What do you want?
Please, yes.
Okay. So, do we have discussion about that?
The individual words?
Yes.
I already said my thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
All right.
I mean, it'd be hard. And I know it's a branding, but it's not South Walton. And that's why we have this code.
It is a place in, the previously approved it, but I understand that's part of the state essence plaza, and it's not visible from drive-by traffic.
Yeah. We don't have control over or
I personally have
oversight
no
of
problem
that.
with that, with them. I like the look of the place. I think it looks really nice and very tastefully done. And I think that it is, like you pointed out, that it's so far from the road, and I know it is because I go by there all the time, that, you can't see it from the road. You won't see that those letters are there.
And the letters are
I
only
don't
like a few
think-
inches tall, I mean, they're,
And I think with that huge thing we have a couple of doors down from that what you currently have there with the sign looks just totally out of place because it's so small compared to what's up there, that to me, this kind of brings a more of a balance to it.
What are you talking about?
Well, I'm talking about this whole front part. I'm talking about the Acme with the canopy. You know, I think with the
Okay,
little
we're not
sign that they
talking
have
about that
above
one
that.
right now.
Right,
Okay.
right, but I mean, to me, I'm looking at the whole thing, but to me, it just seems like it'd be much more balanced compared to, because otherwise, we've got this great big old sign over here, and then we've got this little old sign over here, and it just doesn't seem balanced to me.
It's gonna be hard for anything to look balanced with that monstrous sign.
It is.
I mean, quite honestly.
But at least this is tasteful to me. I think it is.
and that's kind of what we were trying to go for, is that, I don't think I've ever, and I've been eating Acme I grew up here, but I go down to Louisiana a lot, and I don't think I've ever had to walk up and go, man, that looks garish, or that, even though somebody said earlier that, Louisiana doesn't have, they still do. If you try to put anything in the French Quarter or some other, there are commissions for every, I specialize in beverage licensing and food service licensing in 5 different states, and I've never, they put you under a microscope, have to go through 5 different safety commissions. So yeah, I do appreciate what the gentleman said, but wait till you go through 5 different safety committees and fire committees and prehistoric or preservation committees for the historical committees. And yes, it's committee after committee after committee. And so they put you under a microscope, and it's a very welcome. And when people see Acme, I mean, and especially here, if you've seen the traffic, you don't want to go any further than you can to that way to try to get to a place to eat. And people love Acme, and that's just something that it looks, without on the letters, it doesn't look like it's Acme, and it doesn't feel like Acme, and it's so far removed from the roadway that I could understand if we were a strip mall like the Gin 98 or something over here, and we were trying to do this. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that measure, but the distance that it's set back from is no one could you would actually have to pull your binoculars out to see if that's lettering on there.
Okay. So we're having discussion.
Yep.
Any other discussion on the single words on the awnings?
The food words only, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Food words only.
I would just say, and I'll harken back to something that David Bailey pointed out in a past meeting, that I think we're finding ourselves in a lot of situations trying to alter our code to fit the design that someone chose of a building, placement, design, whatever. And so to alter the code because this developer chose to position this building far back off the road, I have a problem with. And the other thing I will say is that I think we were told something very similar, that it would almost take binoculars to see that thrill sign.
And that's why
And
we
clearly,
removed the deviation.
clearly, that was not,
the
that was not the case. So it's more of the overall look from the road and clutter and things like that. And I just have a real concern that because I don't know if I can say that we made a mistake, Sydney, but because of what we did
Maybe if you did approve it,
on the one,
and you get enough objections from the public that we would agree just immediately to take the lettering back off.
I wish.
If you
I've heard some objections.
No, they can't.
They can't.
So.
By the way, my name is Jake Palmer. I'm the Director of Operations for Acme. Thank you.
Can you, do you mind coming up, sir?
I just want to make sure that everybody's clear that the lettering on those awnings is in place and it is covered. And the lettering on the barrel awning is in place and it is covered. Those photos are exactly what it will look like when it is unveiled. So there's nothing is left to interpretation as it relates to those signs. The exterior neon signs, obviously I can understand that you've been told one thing and they turn out to be another. But as it relates to the letters specifically, they are done. They look exactly as they are on those photos. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think it's more of a perception of size issue. I mean, the renderings that we saw for the other one from the road, they were just, I don't know if it's when you take a picture with a camera, things just look smaller than they actually are or what. So I don't think that it's going to look very different than what's in the pictures. I think the perception from the road may be different than what we're thinking, because I know that was the case on the other location. So those are my concerns. I think of telling one person earlier tonight no on a deviation, and it's just difficult. We've come so far on this corridor, and we've worked so hard to maintain a standard, an aesthetic standard, and I hate to see just chipping away and eroding at that. Is what concerns me now that we're really hitting some volume in development, really, that the character could change really quickly. And again, I understand that this you may feel looks okay, applicant, but we have to consider it across the board. It's like, you have to think of it from a general perspective. And that's why the codes are what they are, I think.
Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
We're talking about just the words on the awnings?
Just the food words on the awnings, yes.
I mean, I make a motion to deny the deviation.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of denying the deviation?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we have 3 in favor and 1 opposed on denial.
Okay, thank you for that. I guess we have 2 left on that. One is the awning itself with the lettering that we can do, and then the other would be the corner sign.
Yes. So is it the awning itself we need a deviation on, and then the lettering on that awning?
Yes.
Okay, so
One is for the sign itself, and the other is for the height.
But the awning itself being there is okay?
Yeah, the awning's fine.
Gotcha.
Having
okay.
the sign, an additional sign on it is the issue.
Right,
And it's,
because you're allowed one sign, which you have up on the building.
yeah, and
So-
it's bigger,
so having
taller.
an extra
It's taller.
sign and having a sign that's too tall.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So let's discuss having the extra sign.
So the rendering I'm looking at here that was in our packet it just shows the awning with the sign on it and not the one above it. So this is actually, there will be the sign above it. See what I'm talking about? There's nothing here.
Yeah.
So there's an actual sign above it.
Yeah, this would be it right here. And if we're going towards aesthetics, if we're gonna leave those black, I think it would work for what you're going for, if we could put the Acme there in lettering. I understand where you're going with that completely, with the lettering there. But it looks like just one of this big black space and a void.
Another question, you said you are approved for more signs in under the master signage plan?
No, we're not.
Oh.
We were approved for when.
He was saying if they weren't in the scenic corridor, if we determined, but they still couldn't have this many signs. Under the regular sign code, you can have more than one, but you couldn't have as many as you're asking for.
So what do we have remaining here that we're looking at tonight? This awning sign, which is two deviations, and the vertical one on the corner?
It's too tall. It's an allowable sign, because you can have it, because
it's on the corner.
It's on the corner, but it's too tall.
In other words, if we didn't ask you to do vertical, we could still put it horizontal.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about allowing the sign on the front of this awning. Any discussion?
It kind of bugs me that there are two signs, boop, right there on top of each other. And it'll actually be the same sign, won't it? For the most part.
One, from a distance, it's not discernible to the eye on that you have.
We have a distant shot. Can I see one of the distance views?
Absolutely.
I know. Put the black one in front. Because that little one just looks like lost. Totally lost.
I agree.
It would show up as just to the naked eye would just show up as discernible faint lettering. And if you've ever been to really a nicer restaurant or any type of jewelry store, anything like that has a beautiful entry on in any hotel, they all of them are designed to have the name emblazoned in script across that. I think if you walk down Worth Avenue, any high-end place, which we were trying to project here, of course, is that you would have that type of lettering on the entryway.
What do you think about having that lettering on the entryway and removing the sign above it?
The sign above it seems.
I don't know, it's already been paid for. I mean, to bring that down. And
installed and paid for.
To have it, I think it would look, and it's really tiny.
It is
tiny.
It's tiny, but it could have been larger.
Yeah.
No, I meant that sign too, but I meant really that canopy that sign's really kind of less than that sign. It's just for dramatic effect. I mean, we have this very beautiful long entryway, and it just looks like you have this huge black void sitting there. I do understand the levity of that's, we appreciate the input on that, but that's right here is just kind of a welcome. Here you're at Acme, and a lot of places, a lot of nicer high-end hotels, restaurants, they all that's kind of like a signature for a lot of high-end places.
Do you butt up next to Thrills?
No.
Or is there an empty bay between you?
Yes, there is. I think there's going to be.
There's a parcel in between, and then the entry to Thrills is far to the west.
Yeah, so it will not be, see, there, you can see on the far right where we included that. So they're enough so where it's not gonna, it wouldn't look packed. It wouldn't.
But there's an empty bay between you is my question.
That is a.
So the hip roof.
So we're looking at another sign.
What's
Keep that in mind.
in here, in this, you know what's going in these? Real estate companies. A real estate company. And that's what's gonna separate that. Correct, okay.
Okay.
You can keep that up.
Any other discussion? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the Acme on the front of the canopy.
Do we have a second?
a second for discussion. You want to say something about it?
I'm having second thoughts.
Imagine you're
Oh.
walking into a deal blow it out when you.
The motion can fail for lack of a second. You can have another motion.
Or did Lee motion, or second it? No, okay.
I mean, I don't, I've already said my piece. I don't like the two signs together.
Do we have a second? All right, the motion fails for lack of a second. Do I have a motion?
Well, this picture shows it without a sign on top.
Well, it looks better.
Mhm.
Looks way better.
But that's not neon.
I wish it would show it with the sign on top, then I can make a decision. Be easier.
Isn't there one that showed both?
It's one or the other, I think. I
Mr.
think.
Osterwald, do you want to continue this matter to the next?
Yes,
meeting?
we'd like to continue this matter.
Okay.
Yes. And then.
It might be a good idea to just get a visual of the two together.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will not take up then either the size of the sign.
You guys just want to wait for
So-
both of them?
Yeah, they can.
I make a motion to continue to the next meeting.
Second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Nobody.
Thank you.
So you want to continue the,
Yes.
I guess, the side corner
Um,
sign to the next meeting?
We'll wait on that one, and we'll wait on that one as well.
Okay, do we have a motion to continue the corner sign?
I motion to continue the corner sign
Second?
to the next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
Thank you very much for your time.
Those are continued.
Thank you.
The last item is the public workshop to discuss signage and lighting, but this is my fault. I was supposed to ask for more workshops from BCC and I forgot. But it's on the agenda on July 25th for me to ask for more meetings, so we'll be good in August. I'm sorry about that.
Do you need a motion to continue that?
No, we'll just schedule it once we've got more approval.
Okay.
And
Okay.
David should be at the next one anyway. I think he had discussion about lighting.
Is there additional business?
I think so.
No, David did send out a file, but
Yeah.
we'll forward it before the next meeting.
Workshop, yeah.
Okay. Lee has additional.
Tim, I would just say, based on the discussion around the Mattress Now sign, if code enforcement could get out there and look at some of those signs that seem to be out of compliance. I don't know if they have multiple anchors or what, they could be a little different from her situation, but there are a lot of monument signs out there with 3, 4, 5, 6
Yeah, we need to.
tenants.
Yeah, they put them up after the sign gets approved.
I know, so if code can just, because it's hard to tell somebody, you know,
Yeah,
no
it's
when.
hard to tell no when she's got all these pictures.
I will certainly ask Bill, the code supervisor, but mostly they work from complaints. If there's not a complaint, then, but I will certainly talk to him.
Thank you.
I don't know if it's appropriate for me to ask this question, but it was brought up so many times tonight that I want to ask it. Those, on the blue sign, did we approve the wingets or whatever on the sides? I thought we only approved the ones above the eye.
Yeah, I went back and checked that. You did.
We did?
Yes. I looked at the
It's massive.
drawing that they submitted. It was because I didn't think it was included either. I mean, I emailed her and said, I don't think this is what got approved, but as it turned out, it was what got approved.
Well, sort of a follow-up to that, like going forward. I don't think you were here, Lourdes, but at our last meeting, we all agreed that was a huge mistake, that Thurles thing. I think part of what happened there is that we rearranged that sign so much that we didn't really have a rendering that showed what the final result was going to look like, because all their renderings showed it very spread out. And so I think that's why we ended up with something that looks way, way bigger. One of the reasons. I think is one of the reasons. So I just think that maybe going forward, if we make substantial changes to something like that, we might want to have them, we might want to continue it and have them bring back a rendering that shows what we came up with, because I don't know that we would have ever approved that if we had seen. It's huge. It is
Well, and
so
one
big.
issue
I
too.
know I have a hand on pushing things around.
Yeah, but, and I'm not blaming.
I don't remember the height.
The size of it is tremendous. It fills up that whole facade, and that's why I'm saying we never saw anything that looked like that. And I quite honestly, I mean, I don't know if their renderings were exactly to scale.
Well, now that's what I was going to say.
That?
I think that was one of the issues too. She hand drew that herself, as opposed to going out and getting a professional drawing. And I think you're right. I think those were not dimensioned. She just showed, okay, this is 48, this is 36, but it's not dimensioned. So I think you're right.
Because there's
It
no way
looks-
that it came up that high on the building.
No.
There's no way.
I don't remember it being that big.
I don't think so, because they installed what was approved. I mean, you said 48 inches and 36 inches, that's what they installed. But I think you're right. I think on the drawing, because it wasn't scaled, and that's probably my fault, I should have insisted on a professional drawing. I think it showed at about half the length of what it actually, in terms of the building, than what it is.
It would have been
okay.
much better, yeah.
Because I think
So-
she showed that about half
know.
the size of the facade.
Because we had that happen with Chick-fil-A one time, and they had something that they put that was, it was making us think that it was one size and it was actually another, and we caught it that time. But this,
Yeah, I was dubious. I should have been more forceful that those were hand-drawn pictures.
Yeah, I don't think they were to scale, and then I don't think we had a good feel for what that was going to end up looking like, because everything moved around so much.
I mean, I had a good feel about the composition, but
Yeah.
I didn't have a good feel about,
Yeah.
I didn't have the sizes. I mean,
Exactly.
it's like,
Exactly.
I don't-
I mean, look, we all voted for
because I
it.
mean,
So
I mean,
it
I'm
just,
just like,
whoa. And I was also concerned too that we were going to get this. Like, well, you approved this huge.
out of balance on the entire corridor.
It is. So see, if we try to make that building imbalance, or that development imbalance with that sign, it's like, well,
a
then why don't
domino
you do the
effect.
one the
It's
next
gonna be
door?
a
And
domino effect. It's
yeah,
gonna boom, 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 boom,
to
boom.
me, it's like,
Well, the saving grace in that is deviations are case by case. They
Case
don't-
by case.
They don't set a precedent. So if someone comes in, well, what about thrills? You can say, what about it? Your circumstances are completely different.
That's fine, but we're still gonna put our heads under the
it's
sand.
hard. It's hard to say that,
It's hard to
especially
say
when it's
that.
right next door.
And it's, especially when they said, we approved it.
Yeah. So I think we have to be, that's just my point, and follow up to your point. We have to be really careful.
But at least on that one, we
going
did just
forward.
approve the one sign instead of like 8 signs in front of a building.
That was a bunch. I was like, I can't even keep up with all these TVs.
Yeah, I'm curious how that got approved in the village. I mean, I wasn't involved in that.
Oh, that's a totally different feel. It's a totally different feel. It's a totally different
So
scale.
we're gonna talk about it next time.
All right.
That's
Any,
a
What's that?
pedestrian scale.
Okay,
It's
we
not
continued it,
a
so we'll talk about
vehicular
it.
scale.
Car scale, vehicle
Yeah.
scale,
So, anything
Car
else?
scale, auto scale,
auto scale.
Autobahn.
Any other business?
No,
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
yay. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
I'll be the first.
I'm the last one that, I came the last, and I'm like, I wanna leave first.
But one thing he said, that my understanding is they're moving from